So our next guest, we're going to be talking about weight reduction. I guess it's that sort of time of year now where many people will set themselves goals to maybe reduce some weight. It's not always easy. Throughout Christmas, many of us, including myself, have indulged. And it might even be sort of changing some eating habits too. Everyone's got their own sort of, idea around this area. But who better to join us than psychologist Dr. Linda Papadopoulos and Deanne Murphy is going to give us an idea of her experience in weight reduction. So, Dr. Linda, welcome to the show, and Deanne, great to have you on board. Can you give us a bit of insight into what are the challenges into reducing in weight?
Yeah, so with Slimming World, we did a new survey. There was about 2,000 adults across the UK, and it was really interesting because we found while about over 40% thought about losing weight at least once a week, the vast majority didn't take action. Half of UK adults say they just put off losing weight, and 22% have said they delayed losing weight for over 3 years. And I think a big part of what we're seeing is that it just feels like such a daunting task. So it's clearly things that people really want to do, but they feel that they can't. And so again, sort of looking more deeply into this, when Swimming World surveyed, I think this was in over 7,000 new members last year, they found, and this is the fascinating thing, that where they get their success is that they're able to quickly boost people's self-belief and their motivation. So whereas before joining, about 40% say, maybe I can lose weight, after literally just one session, you have 97% of people saying, you know what, I think this is something I can do. And I think when you have that mental shift between the difference between this is something I want to do and this is something I actually think I can do and I have the tools to do, that I think is what makes all the difference. And that's why they have the success that they do.
No, that's an interesting insight. And in terms of your experience, Deanne, I mean, sort of your own experience, what was the biggest thing for you? I mean, obviously, I think one thing for me, I think that is important is having maybe social support, other people who've got the same, mission as yourself, to varying degrees that can sort of help. But I suppose from your own, experience, what sort of did it for you? What was the big thing for you about being involved in Slimming World?
I first joined Slimming World back in 2015, believe it or not, and it's took me maybe 4 or 5 attempts to actually find my feet. It's definitely, this time round, has definitely secured it for me that I need to do this. I'm 6 pounds away from my target and lost just under 3 stone this time round. The being to group, being there with like-minded people, like you say, sharing a common goal, it definitely helps me. My consultant is the best consultant I've had in a long time. It just gives you a sense of purpose. I make sure that I stay to group every single week. It's the one thing that keeps me on track.
Yeah. No, it's interesting stuff. And how does it work, Deanne? I mean, obviously, sort of like, just in a nutshell. I mean, do you set goals there? Do you get recommended what to eat? I mean, it's sort of, I suppose there is this sort of possibly a misconception about, you turn up, you weigh yourself, and here you go away and eat this for the week. But I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. But just as a general overview, how does it work?
So when you first arrive, you're met by your consultant. She runs through with you the Slimming World plan. You're given a full pack that you're advised to read at leisure during the week as well after you've first attended your first session. But then you get weighed, so you know your starting weight. And then it's up to you whether you want to set a final goal or an interim goal. So at first I was setting it in stone intervals, and then I've finally, set my final target now. You go each week, they weigh you, everyone's really lovely. You sit down to group, there's a session, part of the morning, or my group is a morning, but at various times. You sit down and each of the people in the room then discuss how they've got on that week, if they've had any difficulties, if they've had any successes. You can ask for any advice from your consultant or anyone else in the group. and you're all there to support each other. You then, at the end of your little section, you get to say whether you want to set a target for the following week, which I always think is a brilliant idea because it just keeps you motivated. Whether you've got plans that week, I mean, I'm quite a fan, we have quite a big social life, so it helps keep me mindful that actually, yeah, I have got a life, but I also have a goal, a personal goal, and so it helps in that sense.
No, absolutely, yeah. No, it's really interesting stuff, and I suppose, I mean, obviously, sort of like, I think I find it like really interesting, and the process, you mentioned there, Deanne, and I'm wondering, I just want to bring Dr. Linda back in. She's a well-respected psychologist, obviously, and how she would sort of, decode that from a psychological perspective. Obviously, food is a big thing around weight reduction. It's the math is, whichever way you look at it, sort of, whichever way, not that I'm a nutrition expert, but, calories have a big play in it. But obviously I'm aware not all calories are the same. Some got high nutritional value, but the main barrier for me is going to be sort of like, I would guess is going to be, making sure that sort of eating, exercise, so on and so forth. But what's your take on it from a psychological perspective? Just little time we've got left, Dr. Linda, how would you break it down psychologically? What are they doing there from your understanding that's sort of different than being on your own and trying to battle your way on your own to try and get to a certain way?
Sure. I think we need to look at where delaying weighing, getting the weight loss that you want comes from, and oftentimes it comes from a fear of failure, right? We get comfortable in our discomfort, and what we do is we put off change, right? And every time we put off change, what happens is it kind of chips away at precisely the thing that we need, which is the confidence to create change. So we get into this sort of cycle where taking action seems more and more difficult. So really what we're doing with kind of having these meetings is we're addressing those things that kind of hold us back. We're addressing the confidence issue. And the way that this is addressed, I think, and Deanne put it beautifully, is the fact that, number one, you clarify goals. Having, an orientation of where I want to be is key, right? So we have a direction. You think about it, I know where I am on a map. It's much easier to think of where the next step is. But then beyond that, you actually have this amazing tool set, whether it's a consultant, whether it's doing it with a friend, whether it's having an idea of actually how I eat, how I move, how I think. All of these tools then don't, give you a sense of volition, give you a sense of control, which I often think is lacking with people that, just that, aimlessly think, okay, I want to lose weight, and comes this amorphous thing, right? Because it isn't an easy thing. It takes time, it takes commitment. And that idea that I am taking steps towards it, and really critically, and I think this is a big one, that I'm loving myself on the way. I think far too many times we put our lives on hold, right? I'll meet the girl when, I'll get the job when, I'll do that. And I think what I love about the Slimming World ethos is that there's a real positivity that, yes, this is the goal that I have, but I'm going to love and nurture myself on the way to that goal. And like, again, finally, I think really critically is reframing how we show that love to ourselves. Because there's, those negative ways of like, showing love, which is like, oh, I'm just going to, not move and eat whatever I want and not think about it. And, while in the short term, that feels great, that's not taking care of your future self. So I think this idea of being able to find ways to take care of your future self, to show yourself care and love in healthy ways is critical. And I think that's why we see the success of so many people that we do with Slimming World.
No, absolutely. And it's always a good time to start, but I suppose for a lot of people, what better time to start? January. And I suppose some of the tips you've given there, Dr. Linda, probably are useful in other areas of life too. It could be anything really, sort of setting a goal and also sort of, staying sort of focused. But I can see the value of having the social group and just from what Deanne is saying there as well, this her experience sort of, I'm sure resonates with a lot of people. It's not easy, but it's doable. And if anyone wants to find out more information, is there anywhere they can go? I mean, any sort of where they can sort of check out more info?
Absolutely. If they go onto the Slimming World website, all of the research that we touched on today is there. But I think more critically, you can find your local group just to kind of, pop in and make that change, make that first step. Because ultimately, with even the biggest changes, they all start with that first step. So yeah, if you go onto Slimming World, there's a ton of information there on how you can do that.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. Thanks for your time, Dr. Linda Papadopoulos, who's been very kind to join us to give us an insight into the mindset around weight reduction and the value of being in a group like Slimming World, and Deanne, who's given us a lived experience, which is always valuable to hear people who sort of have lived it and who are living it. So thanks for your time, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy.